Hi everyone. I've had some questions about my social language informal assessment and what it looks like and how it works. And since I just recently updated something on it, I thought this would be a great time to kind of walk you through it. What I'm walking you through right now is the social language informal assessment number one, and we are looking at the prompts and questions for a little bit older students. So I kind of put this in grades approximately 3 to 5, but there's definitely wiggle room on that 3 to 5. So what you can see here are our visuals. And then on the other side, on the right side, you can see the what you're going to be typing into. So you are going to read the students the story, and the story so you get directions here on what to do, and the story is actually right here on page 2. So you're going to read the story while you are showing them the pictures, and then you are going to have the students retell the story. And while they are retelling, you should definitely be recording it. And in addition, you can type what they are saying into this box. So you can do that at the same time synchronously and then go back and asynchronously kind of check your work. That's what I would recommend for being the most accurate, but also the most time efficient. After you go through, oops, sorry, I forgot. After you go through, you're going to have these different questions. Why did the fox flatter the crow? And you can type in their answer or not, and then give them a score, a 1 or a 0 added up here. So this student got a total of 3 out of 4. And then you're going to rate them on a very, very simple story retelling rubric. So the range is between 1 and 4. And you are just going to say how much of the story did they retell, and how good of a job did they do with inferring. So we know from up above they answered 3 of these inferring questions correctly. So I'm going to give them a 3. And let's just pretend like my student retold all parts of the story, and I felt like they did a really thorough job. Next, you're going to move on to the theory of mind section. So you can see here the images that are going to go with the recording sheet, and then you're going to read the directions. I'm going to show you some pictures of some things that have happened to Leo and Jenny. Listen to each story and try to figure out what the person is thinking in the last picture. And then I would read number 1, and I might point to some things as I go along. That's okay, as long as you write in any accommodations that you're making, and then give them a score. Now, keep in mind here, there are 2 portions to these questions. Who will Leo think he took his art, and why? Now, it's up to you how you want to score those. So if the child gets only part of those questions right, you might want to give them a 0.5. It's up to you. This is not a standardized assessment, so you are allowed to interpret it as you wish. And then you'll go in, and your student maybe got a 3 points total. Next, you're going to go to tone of voice. And we have some images here of a little boy showing different feelings. And what you are going to do is you are going to read the same sentence 5 different times in a different tone of voice. And after each one, the student has to either point to the picture that best represents the tone of voice that you used, or just tell you, I think that was a blank tone of voice. Please use your professional judgment in this. If you feel like you said it in such a way that there were 2 possible answers and the student gives you one of those 2, give them credit. We should definitely be using professional judgment in here. Again, this is not standardized. This is informal. Do what you need to do to get the most accurate results that you can then report to the family and the team. So overall, let's say this student had a score of 2. I put that in tone of voice. Next is sarcasm. Now, there's really no pictures for this. So sometimes I will actually just turn everything over so that the student can't see. I'm going to describe what sarcasm means. Sometimes I'm even going to give an example beforehand because it's just really useful for some kids to know what you're talking about. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to say these sentences in the way that's indicated. So for the first one, I might say, Monday is my favorite day of the week. And I am going to overemphasize because otherwise it's not clear whether it's sarcastic or not, even for someone with pretty typical social pragmatic skills. And then the next one, I'm going to say in a serious way, I love to play with my brother. And I'm going to give the student credit, whether or not they could do it or not. As we go down, they got 4. All right, next section is called social problem solving. So we have some pictures here. Now, in every picture, there is supposedly a problem. Keep in mind what I see as the problem may not be the same thing as what you or the child sees as a problem. So when you ask them, what's the problem in the first picture, you don't have to go by what I gave as an example here. So the example I gave is maybe a bad sport or cheating. But if your student can give an answer that's very reasonable and can explain themselves, then go ahead and give them credit for that. What's even more important here are what are 2 ways that this could be handled? Does your child have flexible thinking that they can think of 2 different things that could be done to handle this situation? Okay, the pictures are done now, but we're going to do a double interview. Now, this is something that you're going to go through and just ask the students some very basic questions. Who lives with you? What do you like to do as a family, etc. And then you're going to turn the tables and say, okay, now it's your turn. I want you to ask me 5 questions. Something that I've found over the years is some students will turn around and ask you the exact same questions that you asked them. And that is totally okay. You've just modeled for them what is appropriate to ask. Sometimes I have students that come up with creative and other fun questions that is really humorous and quite fun to engage in. And sometimes I have kids that maybe will ask me one question and then they're just stumped. They just can't think of any more questions. Or they'll ask me the same type of questions 5 ways. Do you have any Roblox? Do you? And I say, no. And they say, what type of Roblox do you have? And I say, no, I don't have any Roblox. Oh, but do you have this kind of Roblox? No, I don't. And then you realize that maybe the first question was okay, but everything else after that question was all on the same topic that I already told them I couldn't engage in. So they might only get a 1. Down here, I can put in any notes or observations if I would like. Then I'm going to go through, usually after the fact, but sometimes I can fill it out as I'm going along, and I'm going to put down any observations that I have. These observations you can find at asha.org. But what I did here is I just kind of made a rating sheet. Of these things, how often does the student look at the speaker? Rarely, sometimes, or usually. So maybe usually they do that, and usually they orient their body towards the speaker, but they're like never following the speaker's eye gaze. If the speaker's looking towards the door, the listener, the student is not doing that at all. And then I go through this. There's no real scoring here. This is just observations that you can take note of later and put in your final report. Again, you can write down your observations here. Now, so what I think is really beautiful here is this form will actually start to fill itself in. So this is an 8-year, he's 8 years and 1 month. The day is January 1st, 2021. Okay, so I put in Johnny here. It will automatically fill in here. And it also automatically filled in the scores as I was typing them in. So he got 3 out of 4 on this and 4 out of 4 on this, 3 out of 5 on this. Obviously, I didn't put an answer in here or it would have transferred over. And then I'll go through my observations and I'll put in any strengths that I observed with the student, as well as weaknesses. What are some areas that the student still needs to fill out? Now, this is what I'm kind of really excited about, and it's brand new, and I'm embarrassed that it took me so long to put together. But if you do or do not know, I finished my clinical doctorate last year. And one of the reasons I decided I even wanted to do a clinical doctorate was because I didn't know how to look up research. I didn't know how to put it together. I didn't know how to cite it once I found it. I didn't know what good research was versus bad research. Remember, I finished grad school when we were still going to the library and looking things up in the Dewey Decimal System in the card catalog. So things have changed a lot since then. What I very recently did is I went back to this product and I decided I was going to specifically find updated research that demonstrated the various points in this study, in this informal assessment, and then I was going to list them all APA 7 so that you could use these as areas of evidence as you go through and provide information to your team about whether or not this student that you are evaluating is demonstrating any signs and symptoms of a social pragmatic disorder. This is pretty up to date. I have studies in here that are up to 2018, I think is the most recent study. You can also find this information in a variety of places. I just wanted to be really specific when I put down the different studies and show that this really is research-based information that I have included here. I hope that that's really helpful. I hope that you end up deciding that this is a great tool for you and that you can use it not only for your evaluations, but also for your progress monitoring to see what kinds of progress your students have made over the year, over 2 years, over 3 years, etc.